Hello and welcome back to Lightworker Training. My name is Tatiana and I'm so grateful to be joining with you today to talk about this very crucial topic, which is the significance of unresolved trauma. So this is a huge one, and I'm sure I'm going to have lots to say about it in this video. I'm feeling like this one's going to take 2 or 3 to really describe the issue of unresolved trauma and how to know when unresolved trauma is coming up for healing and how to deal with it in a way that works. So there's lots of ways of dealing with it, and I don't want to say that I am the arbiter of truth when it comes to the only way to heal trauma. There are lots of modalities out there. I think it's fantastic that people are aware of the significance of unresolved trauma and are starting to look at this. And I also feel like there's some very problematic things going on. I mean, we see this in every line of work, right? It's not just that we have a bunch of crackpots out there calling themselves healers. We also have people, like, say, at the local restaurant who aren't real cooks and they don't really care, and they're just throwing some crap on a plate. And when you get it, you can tell you don't want to eat it. And you're like, your body's like, there's no love in there. So, that's that's fine, right? And having food made with love is important, but I feel like the trauma piece feels especially problematic to me because when folks are looking for help for healing the unresolved trauma that they're carrying, they run across all of these folks out there that are promising all these things or offering all of these services, and most of those folks haven't even dealt with their own trauma and they have no freaking clue. I mean, I'm laughing, but it's like a laugh to keep from crying kind of thing, because honestly, like, it's just a lot of folks at best, going down rabbit holes and running around cul-de-sacs and not getting to where they need to go. But at worst, it's folks are having experiences with not only healers that aren't really qualified, but are maybe narcissistic or even predators that are, um, harming folks. So, whew, it's crazy out there. I could do a whole video just shit talking things that I see happening out there, but that's not what I'm about. I got to do a little bit of just, I got to keep it real and just be like, whoa, shit's crazy out there. Okay. But I'm all about giving you tools that I have used myself to heal my shit. I'm telling you, it was bad too. I was a mess. And so I've found some ways that work for me. I've shared them with other folks and I've experimented a lot. And so what I'm sharing with you are things that I've actually used a lot for years, years and years, and refined. So I'm not just like coming out of a program because I thought it was trendy and I'm gonna like give you this information. You know what? Information's fine, but information isn't healing. I wish it was. It saved me a lot of work if I could just watch a video or like listen to a guided meditation or read a book and have healed all my shit. But let me tell you, if you get these pieces and you just take whatever resonates with you and work with it, it's going to save you so much time. It's going to save you so much time, energy, money. I mean, you name it. So I hope that you can benefit from all of the time I've spent just spinning my wheels, stuck in suffering, trying to figure this stuff out. And yeah, it's intense. It's intense. When you're dealing with a lot of trauma, it's intense. So I just want to say right now that if you feel like you're carrying a lot of trauma, I love you so much. I'm so grateful that you're here. And I really just want to be in service and share some of these things that worked with me. Just take whatever resonates and leave the rest. And if you're a healer, a practitioner, hey, first of all, we're all healers. And just like I said, if you haven't done the healing work, you have no business being a practitioner. Not that you have to have it perfect, okay? None of us, we're all on the journey here, right? But please do your own work first, and then you'll know what actually works, right? So anyway, but regardless of if you're here because you want to work more on your own stuff because you're just getting started on this healing path, or if you've already worked through a bunch of stuff and you're looking for some tools to maybe help some of your clients, maybe you haven't struggled with trauma as much as maybe some of the people that are showing up in your practice, and you'd like some refinement. Okay, so this actually brings up this point that I want to address, which is many people that I talk to go, well, I don't really have any childhood trauma, like everything was fine. And I'm like, did you go to school? So, there are all different kinds of trauma that we incur. It could be from a traumatic event that happens. It could be from like longstanding abuse. It could be from just institutionalized systems of abuse. So to me, the whole system is functioning because of trauma-based mind control. Okay, I know that sounds really crazy, maybe, but the whole system that we're in this world, the powers that be, whatever you want to call them, the way that they maintain control over the population is through trauma-based mind control. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but think about it. Imagine a little like 3-year-old toddler. This is about the age people start putting their kids into daycare, into preschool, right? And then starting kindergarten when you're about 5, maybe 4 or 5, depending, 6, maybe, depending on, the kid. Think about how crazy and energetic and curious and exuberant these little babes are. And then they're put in the system where they need to stand in a line and be quiet. Don't ask questions, just do what you're told. And, sit at a desk and be still. Don't go to the bathroom. Don't get a drink of water unless you ask permission, and then you might feel ashamed because you have to go pee. There's a lot of body shaming. Um, it's pretty intense, and that doesn't even include, the attitudes of, some teachers are fine, their attitudes are fine, but some, they actually get off on, smushing the spirits of little children and getting them under their thumb, getting them under control. Yeah, it's a problem. So anyway, that's just one teeny tiny example. I haven't even talked about all of the acts of, explicit sex and explicit violence that children see on TV and all these images in the media. Oh, wow. Sorry about that. got a little phone call there. So, there's a lot. And there are a lot of people who are very unwell in this world. And then they act out their shit on kids, even if it's just dumping their toxic shame, or maybe just verbal abuse. I mean, it's just absolutely horrifying. It's not good. And so a lot of times people say, well, I don't have trauma because my parents never hit me. They just shamed me every day. Okay, well, you think that might affect some of the functions of your mental, emotional, and physical body, your relationships, how you run your energy in the world, and what you're creating, right? Because how you run your energy and what you think, feel, and do creates your reality, right? There is a collective reality, but we also have total influence over our field, right? And so what are we doing with our field? So this is really important. I've talked about this before. I can't remember which video, but it's very important to understand that how we run the energy in our field is of utmost importance. And it's the only thing that we really have control over, is how we're doing this thing right here. Can't control what's going on out there in crazy land or with that crazy person or that crazy person. We can only control what's happening with this crazy person. So, if you feel crazy, you're not alone, and you're in the right place, because I got lots of tools for craziness. So, um, so let's get into this. I'm just kind of on a rant right now, but let's really dig into this topic, because suffice it to say, almost everybody has some level of unresolved trauma. Some folks, it's really complex and it's really deep and really painful. Some folks, it's easier for them to process through because they're not carrying as much, But so just know, just because your folks didn't hit you doesn't mean that this doesn't apply to you. You can still apply this, okay? So what you need to know about trauma is that just because something traumatic happened doesn't mean it's unresolved. So in nature, this is like the classic waking the tiger example. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out Peter Levine. He's just like, classic trauma researcher and healer and facilitator. So reading that book was a game changer for me. So I highly recommend it. If you've ever heard of somatic experiencing, if you've ever heard of trauma release exercises, boom, so a lot of these ideas of that we have now are based on the works of some of these pioneers. So it's definitely good to go to the source material for some of these modalities and just at least read the books, so that you're getting it a little bit closer to firsthand. Not like that's the guy that invented all this stuff, because no, people have been doing shamanic practices for healing this shit forever. So basically what I was going to say is that, if something traumatic happens and you just kind of shake it off and you process the energy, you don't carry it around in your body for the rest of your life. It doesn't end up being this boogeyman that's gonna, come out of the closet any minute and just take you out. It's you processed it. So this is true with any kind of trapped emotional energy, trapped psychological energies that get stuck in the body. If it processes through, it's fine. If it doesn't, if it gets stuffed down or compartmentalized because there's not a safe space to process it, then it's a problem. Then you've got unresolved issues that need to clear out. So we see this with physical detox, emotional detox, psychological, it's all kind of the same thing, Very simple and elegant and beautiful. So anyway, in that classic Waking the Tiger example, he talks about how, you know, um, if a lion is chasing a gazelle on the savannah or something like that. I don't know. It's been so many years since I read it. But if there's this thing happening where, you know, the lion's about to kill the gazelle, but then somehow the gazelle gets away, the gazelle doesn't carry that energy of like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Oh my God, I'm going to die. Oh my God, I'm going to die. No, the gazelle goes and just shakes and shakes and shakes it out of the body. And then it just goes back to munching some grass like nothing ever happened. So that's an example of how you can have a very traumatic situation happen where you think you're going to die, but you shake it off, you process it, you go through all of the emotional detoxing of that energy, and then you don't carry it in your body. Okay. So if you don't clear it, it stays there in the body. And like I said, it's like a little landmine waiting to go off any moment when something comes up that triggers that energy. So I'm going to talk about trauma triggers and flashbacks, because flashbacks are actually very, very common. But what we've been shown in the media, like if you think about, when I say the word flashback, what do you think? You probably are thinking of like some like you know, LSD flashback where it's like, whoa, like psychedelic shit's happening, or some kind of like war trauma flashback, right? Like all those, man, when I was a kid, it was all the Vietnam movies, right? And like just all these like guys just like, they're like, they start acting like they're in the trenches again, right? Because they are seeing and hearing and feeling that they're still in the war. Well, in my experience and what I've seen with most people is that that's not that happens. It does happen, but it's very, very, very rare. What is more likely to happen for most people is that you will feel an energy in your body, and it usually feels like some kind of emotional energy. So I like to call it an emotional flashback. I believe that's what Pete Walker calls it too. Pete Walker is great. I just wanted to show you this book, Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. This is also an abuse survivor who went through the process of resolving his own trauma. He did, you know, do some, you know, academic kind of work around it too, but he did his own inner work. So I think this is a fantastic resource. It has a great process in it. I highly recommend. And yes, so he talks about emotional flashbacks, very, very, very helpful and important to understand that usually when something is triggered, the way that you know is by the way that you feel, and you suddenly feel terrible. And it oftentimes has the quality, the energetic quality of shame, like a very intense shame. Although it could be shame combined with fear, overwhelm, powerlessness, these kinds of feelings. Whatever the feelings were, terror, whatever the feelings were at the time that the trauma occurred. Because those feelings weren't processed. So those feelings are trapped in the body. And when something hits on a trauma trigger, which could be a lot of different things, this energy comes up. So it comes up, it could be just something coming up for healing, right? But a lot of times in the time where it gets triggered, it is maybe not the safest place to process, or a very convenient place to process. So this is very similar to how it got trapped in the first place. it was there wasn't a place or the capacity, the understanding. There weren't others around that could hold space for it or explain or help, the child or the younger self, the past self, process the trauma. Okay. So I just want to be really clear on this so that you understand that when this energy comes up, it's really important to identify it correctly. So first of all, as you may have heard me say before, even many, many times, it's possible to feel an energy which might feel like a trauma flashback or like an emotional flashback. It's possible to feel something that's not yours. Okay, so you can, and I'm sure you do if you're listening to this video, feel other people's feelings, right? We've all had that experience, right? Like being in a room and somebody comes in who's really upset or really joyful or really angry, and we could feel that. Or we walk into a room where somebody's just had an argument, we could feel it, even if they're not saying anything. We're like, our bodies are hardwired to do this. And the more we become conscious of it and work with it consciously, our intuition and this knowingness, all of our clairs, the more we work with that, the stronger it gets, and the more we can discern what's happening. But at first it can be a little confusing. And so it behooves us to always ask the questions, is this my feeling? Is that somebody else's feeling? Who does this feeling belong to? Could be both. It could be that something's coming up for you and you're feeling somebody else who might be there, who might not be there. It might be a lot of different people. Think about how many people in the collective might have a similar pattern. So when the energy comes up, there can be a resonance with all of the people in the collective who have a match on that energy. And then you might be picking up on that stuff, right? So it's really important to send it back. If it's not yours, you have to send it back. I mean, you don't have to, obviously, but if you want to keep it, good luck with that, because you can never, ever, ever heal something that's not yours. You can't process a feeling that's not yours, right? I've talked about this before. So the most loving thing to do and the most powerful thing and helpful thing to do is to send it back. So I'm going to be giving tools on how to do all of this kind of scanning and, dowsing and things like that to get information so that we can be very scientific about it and get the data, so we can know, oh, that wasn't mine. That was, oh, was it that person? Was it that person? We can even get really specific if we want to, which is fun. It's good to develop these kinds of skills and be able to analyze the information that you get. But I don't want to get too much into all of those techniques right now. I'm going to be doing more and more technique kind of stuff as we go along. I did give a technique in the last video for present moment awareness. So I will start sprinkling them in as we go. But for now, just know that you can simply ask the question, who does that belong to, which will bring up the energy. So you don't have to know exactly what it is. You asking the question brings up the energy, and you can make the command, return to sender. So who does that belong to? Return to sender. So if it's not yours, it'll go back to wherever it came from. If it is yours, it'll stay with you, right? So this is a way that you can bring up the energy and sort it out. We're doing a lot of sorting stuff out in this Lightworker training. Honestly, it's just about getting in there and cleaning out the psychic closets and sorting through all the crap in there. And most of it's not ours. I'll tell you right now. But the part that is ours, it's so important that we do this work. So important. So that's the second thing I want to talk about. If it is yours, so you might say return to sender and it's all gone. Great. Next, just go on with your day, right? So if it cleared maybe some or none, but there's still some left, then we want to go into the healing mode, right? So we need to deal with this stuff. So the first thing you need to do, and this is in any situation, so even if it's not convenient for doing healing work, which, man, much of this world is not conducive to that. So, but it is very important to just switch out of that sympathetic fight or flight, right? So it could be that your body is in danger, right? So that's really important, like, to note, like, am I in danger right now? Like, be clear, you might be getting a intuitive hit that, you need to get your ass out of there. So please listen to that if that is for you. But you need to switch out of that, like, place of like, and get grounded, ground that energy down. Because a lot of times when the emotional flashback comes up, what happens is we kind of want to go bye and just leave our bodies, and our bodies are like, what am I, chopped liver? The body doesn't like that, because if our spirit leaves our body permanently, the body dies. The body dies. The body cannot live without us in it. We are the ones that are the life. We are the life. We are the life of this body, okay? We are the life of creation. We are the love and the light and the life of creation, okay? So you want to drop your energy down, 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 down into your body. You can even just, inhale, exhale. This kind, like anything like this, like punching down, palms down, any kind of like moving your arms down like this can really help ground your energy. You can even start high and then push it down, just, boom. This is like, if you are in a dangerous situation, this is actually going to help you fight back. So it's good to do, even if you are in a situation where you need to move your ass, or you need to fight, or you need to, whatever you need to do. It's very good to like drop your energy down. That's what martial artists do. They're not all up here in their head like, no, they're like, all right, bring it. So that's, that's the first thing is, if it's not yours, send it back. Second thing is, get in your body, get grounded, get present, right? Talked about present moment awareness. So you can use that tool from the last video. What was the name of that video? The importance of mindfulness. The last half of that video, I talk about and I share the technique. I walk you through it, a technique for present moment awareness. So get present, use present moment awareness, use any part of it, use whatever you got, whatever works for you to bring it in, right? Okay, so the third thing, and I'm just going to describe this process, and then we'll get more into it in the next video, but I want to give you a basic outline so you can start to get the framework. Obviously, just knowing the information isn't healing, remember? We talked about that, but maybe you can even start to let this sit in the mental marinade and maybe experiment with it a little bit. Take a nugget here and there and start to apply it and see what happens. Okay, so this is the third thing, is to actually run the inner world process. So this is something that you would do when you have the space to actually do it. You don't do this process when you are in the midst of some kind of crazy situation. You need to be in a space where you feel safe to work this energy, because what you're going to do is go on a little journey in your mind. It's your inner world. This is, I'm just giving kind of like a really nuts and bolts kind of breakdown of what this inner world process is. It could get as elaborate as you like, and you can certainly do things like this with the help of different kinds of things people like to do, like taking microdosing on mushrooms or whatever. Like, if that works for you, great. But the thing is that with these external things, which can be total game changers, don't get me wrong, I totally support using helpers and teachers as kind of like a little crutch to get you to that open door of that possibility. And then it's up to you to walk through it and do this inner world work. Mushroom's not going to do your work for you. That would be nice though, wouldn't it? Honestly though, the inner world work is so powerful when there's really intense unresolved trauma. It can be very, very, very challenging. Like all deeply ingrained mental patterns, there are deeply ingrained patterns that can be very challenging in this work. However, once you break out of that pattern, it ceases to have power over you. And it's all about these mental hacks. You've got to break these mental patterns. I know it's hard, especially when you're having a flashback. It really sucks. I know. I know it really, really sucks. But here is the process. I'm just going to give you a little outline of what to do when you're having that experience. And like I said, I'm going to get more into it in the next video. So number one, when you're in a safe space, you have to go within and check in with whoever's shit is coming up for healing. Okay. You got to do that. If you don't do that, it's never going to heal. This is a past self that didn't get this kind of love and care. It needs your help. He or she needs your help. Okay. You're the only one. You are the only one that can help. Let me assure you, nobody out there is going to be able to do this for you, but you totally got this. You can do this yourself. You absolutely can. Okay. So, and I'm going to show you how. I'm going to teach you how. But just the outline for today, check in with the past self. So that means you, as your adult self, are checking in with the past self. So it could be from any age, anytime. It could be you from yesterday. Your older, wiser self of today is checking in with yourself from yesterday. It doesn't matter. It could be any time. Okay. But you have to be in your adult self. You have to claim it. I don't care if it feels like you are or not. It's probably going to feel like you aren't. It's going to feel like you're back in that time, feeling all those things, all the terror and rage and fear, whatever was going on. But it's so key. This is the key. This is the key to everything. You cannot collapse into that energy. You cannot collapse into that energy, right? If you collapse into that energy, you can't help. If you identify as that past self, you can't help that past self. So you actually have to imagine. This is why imagination is so powerful. I did a video about imagination. I'm going to be talking about imagination a lot. Imagine that you can be your present, powerful self, even if you don't feel like it. And imagine you could go help that past self. That's the key, right? When you out picture, this is it. You have to out picture, right? Here's me, here's my past self. I look and I see my past self over here. I see her suffering. I'm going to go in there and help her. This is all imagination. It's all inner world work, journeying into the inner world. Okay, that's key. This is what you can start to tune into, is those wounded parts of self that need your help. You can't help them if you're collapsed into the energy thinking that you're a 4-year-old. You know, you can't help that 4-year-old. You got to be that strong adult self. Go in there and just start kicking some ass, right? Or take that little babe out of there, right? Just anything you can imagine. And you also need to out picture the inner critic that's in your head going, because that's not you either. You're not a child anymore, and you're not these internalized shaming systems. Internalized shaming systems, yes. Remember I talked about school? That's an external system that gains leverage through shaming. Remember? I talked about that. Not just shaming, lots of things. Shame is a big one, though. Shame is the big one when we're talking about unresolved trauma. Shame is the trigger. Shame is the flag, I want to say. Shame is the flag that clues you into, if it's yours, it might be unresolved trauma. Okay, so I think that's about all I can say about this until I get deeper into the process. This is all here. It's all a mental hack. And right now we're in chapter 2, Foundations of Healing. I'm using the formula. Oh, it's got a glare on it. Let's see. I'm using the formula in this book. The book that I wrote about these things that I discovered, that it's not my ideas, just things that are there for anyone to discover. Interesting, amazing, miraculous things that you can use for healing. So I'm in chapter 2 right now in these talks, where we're talking about foundations, and we're talking about the body, and we're talking about why we don't always stay present in our bodies. And it's because of unresolved trauma. So I'm going to get into all of the mental stuff in the next chapter. I mean, it's all mental. So I'm going to be talking about the mind all throughout this. But what I'm talking about with this inner world process is how you use the power of your mind, your imagination, your intuition to change what happened to that past self in your imagination. And it's actually this interesting subconscious mental hack that starts to create a new pattern, right? We want to break the old pattern and create the new pattern. And every new pattern starts at the level of the mind. Every new feeling starts at the level of the mind. Every new behavior starts at the level of the mind. The mental level is the causal level. Okay? So that's all I want to say about that for today, I think. I hope this has been helpful. Just remember that if you collapse into the energy of whatever's being triggered, you can't heal it. You'll be going around and around in that shame spiral, and it is hell on earth. So just know that there's a part of you down in that hell, and you are the one that can save them, and you will eventually. I believe that 100%. I have total faith in your ability. If I could do this, anybody can do this because I was really messed up. So I hope this is helpful. And I'm really looking forward to joining you next time on Lightworker Training because we are going to get into this technique of the inner world process, the kinds of things that come up, how to deal with the inner child, the inner critic, and things like that. So I will look forward to that, and I'll see you next time on Lightworker Training. Bye.